The text from my neighbor Tristan popped up on a sunny Friday afternoon. "Maxwell, you up for some fishing at the lake this weekend? Just the two of us." What happened during that private trip by the water would force me to confront feelings I had buried for years and turn both our lives upside down in ways neither of us could have predicted. I stared at the screen for a long moment, thumb hovering over the reply button. Tristan and I had lived next door in this quiet Denver suburb for almost 5 years, waving across the fence during summer barbecues, borrowing tools on weekends, the kind of easy neighbor friendship that never demanded more than a cold beer and small talk. He was the guy everyone liked. Married to Sarah for 8 years, father to little Emma who was 6 now, always coaching the youth soccer team and fixing everyone's sprinklers. I was the single accountant who kept to himself, dated a few women over the years without anything sticking, the reliable but unremarkable Maxwell who showed up for block parties and left early. I typed back yes before I could overthink it. Saturday morning came fast. Tristan pulled up in his old blue pickup at 6 sharp, windows down, country radio playing low. "Morning, Max," he called, tossing me a travel mug of coffee. Figured we'd hit Echo Lake before the crowds. The drive up the winding mountain road took 40 minutes of comfortable silence broken by talk about work. His construction crew, my latest tax season nightmare, and the Broncos' chances this fall. When we reached the lake, the water sparkled under a cloudless sky, pine trees framing the shoreline like a postcard. We carried the gear down the short trail to the old wooden dock, set up 2 folding chairs, baited the hooks, and cast out. The first hour was peaceful, just the gentle lap of water and the occasional tug on the line. Then Tristan cleared his throat. "Hey, Max, can I ask you something kind of personal?" His voice had a tightness I'd never heard before. I glanced over. He was staring at the water, jaw set, knuckles white around the rod. "Sure, man. What's up?" He didn't answer right away. A fish jumped in the distance, sending ripples across the surface. When he finally spoke, the words came slow, like they'd been chained inside him for a long time. "You ever feel like you're living somebody else's life? Like the person everyone sees isn't really you?" I frowned, not sure where this was going. "I mean, we all have days like that." He shook his head. "Not days. Every day. For years." The sun climbed higher, warming the dock planks. I waited, sensing this wasn't casual talk. Tristan took a shaky breath. "Maxwell, I think I'm in love with you." The words hung in the bright mountain air, impossible and electric at the same time. My rod nearly slipped from my hands. I turned to look at him fully, heart hammering so loud I was sure he could hear it. Tristan's blue eyes met mine, raw and terrified and somehow relieved. In that single moment on the sunlit dock, everything I thought I knew about my quiet, ordinary life shattered. I didn't know what to say. The fishing line drifted forgotten in the water while my mind raced through every backyard conversation, every shared laugh, every time I'd caught myself watching Tristan a second too long and then quickly looking away. "Tristan, my voice cracked." He held up a hand, eyes glistening. "You don't have to say anything back. I couldn't keep carrying it anymore. Sarah and we've been drifting for a while. She knows something's wrong, but not what. And Emma." He rubbed his face, the stubble rasping under his palm. I kept telling myself it was just a phase, that if I ignored it long enough it would go away. But seeing you every day, helping you fix that fence last summer, watching you play catch with my kid, it got louder, Max. It got so loud I couldn't sleep. The confession poured out like water over a dam. How he'd felt the first spark the day I moved in. How he'd fought it with everything he had. Church groups, extra hours at work, even suggesting couples counseling to Sarah that went nowhere. I listened, stunned. The bright Colorado sun suddenly feeling too hot on my skin. When he finally fell silent, I managed, "I don't know what to do with this." He nodded, staring at his boots. "Neither do I. But I had to tell you. Just please don't hate me." Hate him? I was reeling, but hate wasn't anywhere in the storm inside my chest. We packed up early, the fish forgotten. The drive home was quiet in a completely different way, every mile thick with things unsaid. That night I lay awake in my empty house, replaying every moment. Was I gay? Bi? Had I been lying to myself too? The question spun until dawn. Sunday morning Tristan texted once. You okay? I replied with a simple yeah. Need time. But time felt like the last thing I had. Sarah waved at me from their driveway when I went out for the paper. Emma on her hip, smiling like nothing had changed. Everything had changed. Monday at work, I stared at spreadsheets until the numbers blurred. By Wednesday, the weight was crushing. I knocked on Tristan's door after dark when Sarah's car was gone for her book club. He stepped outside, closing the door softly behind him. Max, just my name, but it carried everything. We sat on his back porch steps under the stars, voices low. He told me about the night he almost drove to a bar in Denver just to see if the feelings were real, how he turned around halfway there because of Emma. I told him about the women I dated, how something always felt missing, how I'd convinced myself it was me being picky. For the first time, I admitted out loud that maybe it wasn't. The conversation stretched past midnight. When I finally stood to leave, Tristan touched my arm. Just a second, warm and tentative. Whatever happens, I'm glad I told you. Back in my kitchen, I poured a glass of water and stared at my reflection in the window. The man looking back seemed like a stranger. Thursday, Sarah stopped by with leftover lasagna, chatting about the PTA meeting, and I smiled through it while my stomach twisted. How long could we keep pretending? Friday, Tristan and I met at the park after work, sitting on a bench far from the playground. He looked exhausted. Sarah asked if something's wrong. I lied. I hate lying to her, Max, but the truth, his voice broke. I wanted to reach for him, but I didn't. The fear of what that touch would mean kept my hands in my pockets. That weekend his parents came to visit from Nebraska, conservative, church-going folks who still sent Christmas cards with Bible verses. Tristan texted me a single word, help. I went over for dinner, playing the friendly neighbor role while his dad clapped me on the back and talked football. Under the table, Tristan's knee brushed mine once. The contact sent electricity up my leg. Later, alone in my car, I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles hurt. The secret was growing heavier by the hour. The secret meetings became our lifeline. We'd drive separate cars to a trailhead 20 miles out, hike until we were alone among the aspens, and talk for hours. Tristan described the panic attacks he hid from Sarah, the nights he cried in the garage after putting Emma to bed. I confessed the dreams I'd had about him for months. Dreams I'd woken from ashamed and confused. Each conversation peeled back another layer of the armor we'd both worn for years. One evening in early October, the leaves were turning gold when Tristan said quietly, I think I want to tell Sarah. Not everything, just that I'm struggling. That I need space. I nodded, throat tight. You sure? He looked at me, eyes steady for the first time in weeks. I can't keep hurting her by staying half here. The next night I heard raised voices from next door. I stayed inside, heart pounding, until Tristan knocked at 1 a.m. His eyes were red. She thinks I'm having an affair with someone at work. I didn't correct her. God, Max, I feel like the worst person alive. We sat on my couch until sunrise, him leaning against my shoulder, not speaking, just breathing together. The comfort of that simple contact was more intimate than anything I'd ever known. But the guilt was eating him alive. At work the following week, a colleague mentioned seeing Tristan's truck at a gay bar in Denver. The rumor mill started quietly, then louder. I defended him without thinking, saying he was probably just meeting a friend. The lie tasted bitter. Emma started asking why Daddy was sad. Sarah stopped waving when she saw me. The walls were closing in, and the only person I wanted to run to was the one who had caused the storm. The backlash hit harder than we expected. Tristan's brother called from Omaha, demanding to know why Sarah was crying on the phone. His parents booked an emergency flight. I watched from my window as they arrived, suitcases in hand, faces grim. That night Tristan texted, "They want me to go to counseling. Conversion stuff." I said no. My stomach dropped. I drove to the lake alone, sat on the same dock where everything started, and cried for the first time in years. When I got home, Tristan was waiting on my porch. I told them I need time to figure myself out. They think I'm throwing away my family. His voice was raw. Maybe I am. A friend from his soccer team confronted him at practice, asking if the rumors were true. Tristan didn't deny it. The coach suggested he take a break for the kids. Sarah filed for separation papers the next morning. I offered my spare room. He moved in with one suitcase and the weight of the world. Nights were long talks and shared silences. Days were tense with lawyers and worried calls from my own parents who sensed something was off. One afternoon, Emma came over for a visit supervised by Sarah. She hugged her dad so tight I had to look away. The sacrifice was real now. Custody battles, lost friendships, whispers at the grocery store. Yet in the quiet moments, when Tristan reached for my hand across the kitchen table, the fear felt smaller. We weren't rushing into anything physical. The emotional connection was enough to keep us both standing. But the community wasn't done. A petition circulated at the elementary school questioning whether Tristan should coach anymore. I stood beside him at the school board meeting, silent but present. The betrayal from people we'd known for years cut deep. Winter arrived with snow that blanketed the suburb in white silence. Tristan and I sat by my fireplace one night, watching the flames. "I've been thinking," he said softly. "I don't want to hide anymore. Not from Emma, not from anyone. I want her to know her dad is trying to be honest." I took his hand. "Then we face it together." The decision wasn't easy. Sarah agreed to joint custody with therapy for all of us. Tristan's parents stopped calling for a while, then slowly started again. Awkward conversations that ended in tentative, "I love yous." My own family was shocked but showed up with casseroles and cautious support. Spring brought the first real test. We went back to Echo Lake. Just the two of us, same dock, same rods. This time when Tristan looked at me, there was no fear in his eyes, only quiet certainty. "I don't regret telling you," he said. "Even if it cost everything." I smiled for the first time in months. It didn't cost everything. It gave us something real. We didn't kiss. We didn't need to. The understanding between us was deeper than words. Life didn't become perfect. There were still hard days, sideways glances, questions from Emma we answered together as best we could. But we were growing, stronger, kinder, more ourselves than we had ever been. The man who once lived next door as a stranger had become the person who helped me finally see myself clearly. True or false? True love between two men is worth losing everything else in life?